Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Tinker Tom. This is episode 4 on a series we're doing on NotebookLM, a AI tool that is helping researchers and students and honestly changing the way that we should be thinking about learning and our education. So today we're focusing on the societal impacts of AI. This will be less hands-on than our previous episodes, but more of a step back and looking at some of the impacts that these tools, specifically generative AI tools and NotebookLM, are having on our broader society. So just to reiterate, I'm going to briefly reintroduce NotebookLM, the AI and how it's used, and then explore some of the benefits and societal concerns of AI tools in education. I'm going to be connecting a lot of these ideas on artificial and intelligence based off the work of Holmes, Bialik, and Fidel, who wrote AI in Education in 2019. And they argue that technologies like this are beginning to reshape how learning systems function and what skills students need to develop in conjunction or in collaboration with these new AI tools emerging. So, what is NotebookLM? We've covered this in the last few episodes, but quickly, it's an AI-powered research assistant, and it's designed to work with a set of sources that you upload. This is called bounded intelligence, meaning the sources you used can then be used to generate summaries, explanations, and insights only based on the materials that were uploaded. And these could be YouTube videos, these could be documents, and these could be notes that you upload. So in that sense, it focuses on specific sources that the user provides rather than searching the entire internet. And so because of this, NotebookLM can help researchers and students navigate large amounts of information more efficiently. So instead of manually reviewing every document, users can ask questions, request summaries, or use a plethora of the studio tools to help visualize and create a myriad of outputs based on those sources you've uploaded. So in many ways, the NotebookLM tool and the studio of tools within the AI system act as a research partner or a thinking partner, which can augment learning as well as augment intelligence. And so this will help users organize ideas and then service patterns across, many complex readings, for example. So taking a step back from the tool itself, there are a few key ideas that will, help us sort of frame the societal impacts that NotebookLM has. So AI tools are increasingly reshaping how people learn. When technology can retrieve and summarize information quickly, the role of the learner begins to shift away from simply memorizing information towards interpreting and evaluating it. So first, tools like NotebookLM enhance learning, but only if only if it supports the human judgment rather than replacing it. And so AI systems like this work best when they act as collaborators that help people think more clearly rather than do the thinking for them. And second, one of the biggest risks aren't just technical errors that we find in some of the AI outputs, but there's also concerns about biases, privacy issues, and the possibility of passive learning if students rely too heavily on the if they rely too heavily on the summaries or the automated responses that the AI provide. Next, the broader societal impacts depend on whether education systems or pedagogies involve AI and whether or not teachers and students learn how to use AI in a critical manner, in an ethical manner, and then also have some reflexivity about what the outputs and inputs mean rather than relying on it for simple convenience. And we'll touch more on that in some of the next slides. So there's several ways NotebookLM may improve and help research and learning. So for example, NotebookLM can help summarize complex readings, which can make tough, dense academic material much easier to approach. So in this way, it can help organize research materials and identify connections between different sources, which is super useful for a doctoral researcher like myself, putting together literature reviews for complex research projects. Another benefit is that it can help reduce information overload. So in modern research environments, students often deal with dozens and hundreds of source materials, citations, and documents, and AI can help highlight different themes and key themes across those materials. And so this idea is often called augmented intelligence. And the idea there is that the AI should enhance the human thinking rather than replace it. So in this model, the goal of the technology is to support understanding and exploration while leaving interpretation and judgment to the human learner. So some of the societal concerns, obviously there's a lot of potential benefits, but there's also several concerns, that researchers, students, educators should be paying attention to. The first main and big concern is the over-reliance factor. If students and researchers rely too heavily on AI summaries or the outputs of AI, they may skip the deeper learning processes of reading, analyzing, and struggling with complex ideas. So in this sense, the skill of thinking critically and do deep learning can be taken away based on this over-reliance of the AI tool. Another concern are the biases that AI-generated explanations may give. Then, they have a patterned way of thinking and through their training and their algorithms. And so they may present certain perspectives while, that they're biased towards and not give you the full picture. So some ideas, some positions may be overlooked in that sense. More recently, there's tons of privacy concerns. When you upload documents or you give prompts or maybe you share sensitive information, it raises questions about how some of this material is stored and whether or not there's ethical concerns there. And then finally, just on a broader educational issue, people often mistake the speed and fluency for real knowledge. So the convenience factor doesn't necessarily mean that the learner has developed a deep understanding of the topic. And hopefully we are, taking time to critically think about the outputs. But more and more, we are concerned about students, especially younger students, developing this over-reliance on the quick and easy way of generating information. And so the impact on education, it raises a very big question. How should teaching or teachers or the education system adapt to the presence of these new tools? And so the research on artificial intelligence suggests that AI will change the types of skills that become most important for students. So according to Holmes et al., 2019, AI systems are transforming learning environments and require educators to rethink pedagogical approaches rather than focusing only on information recall or memorization. Students need to actually develop critical thinking skills, be able to evaluate the AI outputs and algorithms. They need to have some ethical awareness and be able to synthesize the information across sources. So in other words, students still need the ability to analyze and critically think about the material that not is just being put in and out of generative AI, but also wrestle with the fact that, some of these analyses need to be thought about deeply and sometimes corrected. So in other words, the goal of AI in education shouldn't be to replace the human thinking, but to strengthen it. So that raises an important question. Can a pedagogy evolve to incorporate this in the classroom or in an academic setting with the technologies while still promoting the deep learning and intellectual independence? Okay. So in conclusion, NotebookLM really reflects a broader shift in how knowledge is produced, organized, and used in education and society. AI and NotebookLM, they have the ability to summarize information, identify patterns, and assist with research tasks that traditionally required significant human effort. And this creates real opportunities to support learning and reduce information overload. But as the authors, Holmes, Bielik, and Fidel, they suggest the real challenge might not be simply integrating it into education, but ensuring that this technology support learning rather than replacing it. So the societal impact, just again, taking a step back, it depends on how we choose to use these tools. If they're treated as shortcuts, doing the critical thinking for the students, for the researcher, it not only weakens, the engagement with the knowledge, but, it also raises concerns about what information or what summaries, might be skewing true knowledge. Now, if these tools like NotebookLM are used collaboratively to support your inquiry, reflection, and the critical thinking, they can actually strengthen that learning process. So as a final takeaway, do these AI tools, does NotebookLM, do they simply help us work faster or do they help us think better? And that's really going to depend on how educators, students, institutions choose to integrate these technologies into the classroom and how they develop pedagogy around, collaboratively using generative tools like this into the learning environment. Thank you again for being here. This was episode 4 of Tinker Tom, and that's going to be our wrap on NotebookLM. We appreciate you being here and sticking through the entire series. Shoot a comment underneath the video if you have any questions, but thank you, and we'll be around for the next one.